Well, today will be day 2 of the Democrats' opening statements in the impeachment trial of President Trump. The first 3 days are given to Democrats so that they can make their opening arguments. 7 impeachment managers took turn detailing the House's case that led to 2 articles of impeachment, one for abuse of power, the other for obstruction of Congress. They're also hammering the importance of allowing witnesses and documents more in the case. They do say they'll need to sway at least 4 more Republican senators to break from party lines in order for those witnesses and documents to be allowed. So the question going forward here is, what can we expect today?
Keith McGilvery is live in Studio B now with Trinity College professor Kevin McMahon, and he has a recap of the first days of the trial and what comes next. We're sending things over to Keith now.
Yeah, thank you, Tim and Erica. We're going to jump right into it this morning. Trinity professor Kevin McMahon joining me here on the couch, and we'll get right into it. Folks at home are seeing this in the news. It's in the headlines, but candidly, a lot of people are busy. They're working. These hearings start at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. People are at work, picking kids up, dropping them off. For someone who has not been plugged in this week, why is this process so important to our democracy?
Well, certainly when it was constructed, the founders viewed this as a way to check the presidency, right? So the idea was that at that time, there was a concern that the executive would be too powerful, and the Congress would be. This was a way in which the Congress could check and control an abusive president.
So I always say on the show, I'm the son of the history and civics teacher. I have been watching, and what I had thought was really interesting compared to the last go-around with President Clinton was, as these managers are making their case, they're using tweets, they're using sound bites, they're using viral clips. What do you make of the way they have presented their case thus far? Yeah,
I mean, I haven't been able to follow every word. You know, obviously it's been going on hour after hour, but it's certainly a trial for the modern era, right? So obviously, President Trump is a different type of president with regard to how he uses social media, and he's well known to make some provocative statements on social media. So they're basically using that evidence to the extent that it supports their case to help convince the Senate that he should be removed from office.
You specialize in the presidency, also in the courts. What do you make of the evidence that we have seen so far? Is it impeachable?
Yeah, I mean, you know, this phrase, high crimes and misdemeanors, which comes from the Constitution, is really up for the Congress to decide. So if we, you know, this is a political process, but if we think about it in terms of a typical criminal trial, impeachment really just means indictment, right? So somebody's indicted and then they're put on trial. The impeachment is the House has decided that there's an indictable or impeachable offense, 2 counts, and now the trial is in the Senate. But unlike a typical jury, which is supposed to be objective and weigh the evidence, this is a forum in which obviously Republicans are on one side and more likely to be convinced that he should not be removed from office, and Democrats are more likely to be convinced that he should be removed from office.
Bit of a unique time in U.S. history. If you look back at the last couple of decades or so, we went a significant amount of time in history with one impeachment trial, and then we look at the last 45-ish years. We have Nixon, who was just on the verge, Clinton, and Trump.
Right.
What do you make of that? Is it a trend?
So I mean, this is sort of known as the politics of scandal, right? So the argument is that, particularly when you have very tight elections, when you have close races, you have an increasingly divided country where people just view one party as mistaken, off the track, right? So they're willing to believe that the other party and the leader of the other party is a bad guy, and to be convinced that he should be removed from office. So it's a way, if you lose the election, to continue to challenge and undermine the authority of the president. Now, sometimes it's purely political, and other times, you know, a president may have done some impeachable things, and therefore this process can be very confusing because it mixes some real evidence that somebody's committed an impeachable offense with the politics that's always there.
So for people who are only casually checking in, I think a lot of people may be aware of the fact that one of the major debates right now is over witnesses. Do we see witnesses at this trial?
It really depends on, you know, 4 or 5 moderate senators whether or not they would join with the Democrats to hear more, to view more documents and to hear witnesses. It's really up to them. I mean, whether or not they they vote against their party and join with the Democrats. So it's up to them. It's hard to say.
What will you be looking for over the course of the next couple of days or weeks?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of that question of witnesses, whether or not folks like Susan Collins of Maine are willing to hear more. Some people want to have it concluded quickly. We have the Iowa caucuses coming up. Then we have the State of the Union. Others want a full and fair trial. And even people who are for the president are arguing that a full and fair trial sort of allows him to dismiss these charges.
All right, it is something we will continue to follow. I know you are teaching a course in the American presidency
Yes.
at what, 10:30?
Yes, so 10:50.
We'll get you back over to campus. We appreciate your stopping by.
Great.